Good morning, students. Welcome to online learning class. Today, we are going to start Unit 6, The Struggle for Freedom. It means the rule of the British in India is possibly the most controversial and the most hotly debated aspect of the history of the British Empire. Admirers of British rule point to the economic developments, the legal and administrative system, the fact that India became the center of world politics. Critics of British rule generally point out that all of these benefits went to a tiny British ruling class, and the majority of Indians gained little. Admirers of British rule counter this by saying that most Indians were poor and oppressed by their own leaders before the British arrived, and that British rule was less harsh on ordinary Indians than rule by Indian princes. Perhaps the main reason why the arguments are so heated and so complex is that India was very different from the other territories that made up the empire. North America and Australia, for example, were sparsely populated and their populations were less economically developed than Britain. India, however, had a huge population and was just as developed as Britain in the 1700s when the British arrived. The British were able to take control of India mainly because India was not united. The British signed treaties and made military and trading alliances with many of the independent states that made up India. The British were very effective at infiltrating these states and gradually taking control. They often left the local princes in charge of the various parts of India. These local princes were effective at maintaining British rule and gained much from being loyal to the British. Now, see, the Industrial Revolution had made some European countries very rich and powerful. These countries started enslaving other countries in Asia and Africa. See, children, the Industrial Revolution in Europe didn't happen overnight but only spread over the continent very gradually. One of the triggers was the unusually high growth in the population, which set in around the middle of the 18th century and produced a gigantic reservoir of workers. At the same time, new, more efficient methods of production became necessary in order to supply the basic needs of so many people. In this situation, Great Britain enjoyed two important advantages: an extremely productive and wealthy agricultural system and an astonishing number of creative inventors. This was why the United Kingdom dictated the rhythm of progress to the rest of Europe from 1750 onwards for the next century or so. India was at that time ruled by the Mughals, who had become very weak. The country was divided into many small kingdoms whose rulers kept fighting with each other. See, the struggle for freedom has been tough for years, and even though it got better as history went on, still to this day there are many ways people struggle for freedom. There are still struggles in the workforce, struggles for women, such and struggles for black men as well. Women and men in the workforce are put into low paying jobs and work extra hours, but still don't receive a raise. Women are still being put under men in many different aspects. Racism is still a huge deal that goes on and is one of the longest and hardest struggles to overcome. The struggle for freedom changes due to the people and what they decide to do. If they decide to rise up and proclaim the Declaration of Independence, which states that all of mankind is created equally, then the struggle will change for the better. But if they decide to sit and watch as history goes on, then there won't be much progress. The Britishers took advantages of this situation and they were able to bring India under their rule. Freedom means the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. Throughout history, humans have struggled for freedom and some still struggle. Some fought for their freedom physically and loudly by using actions like protest and violence, while others forced the government with silence and boycotts. George Orwell's novel Animal Farm and Martin Luther I Have a Dream are examples of struggles for this. Freedom is something all people want but few have. Now, they ruled over India for about 200 years. Freedom is a fundamental human right that all Americans enjoy today. Foner defines freedom as the ability of an individual to do as he or she wishes as long The actions are within the law and respect the right of others. The struggle for freedom is big. People will always have reasons for not letting you have it. No matter what kind of freedom you want, you will always have to work and fight for other people and yourself to find it. Over the years, there has been a lot of hate, but also a lot hope. They drained away our wealth to England and made India a poor country. Many Indians stood up against the injustice of the British. After a long struggle and many sacrifices, India won back her freedom on 15th August 1947. India was ruled by the Britishers for many years. The East India Company ruled India for about 100 years. It was in 1757 when the East India Company won the Battle of Plassey. It was after the win when the company started exerting power over India. Our nation had its rebellion against the foreign rule for the first time in 1957. The entire country united against British power. It was an unfortunate event as India was defeated back then, but after that time, India was rule then passed to the British who ruled our country till India got its independence. These days remind us of all the sacrifices that were made by our freedom fighters in order to set India free from British rule. 15th August is a national holiday and the day is then celebrated with flag hosting, parades and cultural events.